So we're back once again. We're doing 2 days in a row this week because we love it so much.
We do.
We have a special guest, which I will introduce in a few minutes after we talk about what we're drinking, because, you know, with Nick and I, that's always an important thing.
I mean,
so,
dessert first, baby.
I'm
dessert first.
I'm going with my tried and true lately. I got a Mackenzie's Apple Crisp right now that I'm enjoying.
Oh,
and then, go ahead, Nick.
Mackenzie's, right?
Excellent.
Good cider. So I left us last night, and I went and got food, and it was of course happy hour.
Of course.
So I said, "Oh, you got a Mackenzie's on tap?" And they go, "Yeah, it's black cherry." I was like, "Well, happy hour, half off. You might as well pour me one." So Mackenzie's black cherry hard cider. Oh,
that's very good too.
Fantastic.
One of my new favorites from Rourke Brewing, the French Toast Devil Dog Oatmeal Stout.
Ah, that's such a good beer.
And then back to what I had last night, Right Brain CEO Stout.
Yeah,
Nick, what you got?
I got Throwback Thursday. So today in Michigan, it was 40 degrees real close. And so, you know, I figured it's time to finish up my last bottle of Frankenmuth Christmas Town Ale. Sad and depressing times. And then I pulled out the banana bread beer from Eagle Brewing.
What did we find out about this?
Hey, David actually, he hit me up about it. And found out, because we talked about Wells banana bread, right? And I was telling everybody, if you could find it, go ahead. But apparently Eagle Brewing bought Wells.
Wells bought Eagle Brewing.
Okay.
And is doing all of their stuff under
Eagle Brewing. Sure. So, I mean, I don't know. You know, I don't know why. I've never really had too many Wells stuff, and I've never really had too many Eagle Brew. Yeah, banana bread. But it was funny because I was drinking it. I was like, oh, it tastes really close to Wells, if not the same.
And now we know why.
It's because it exactly is the same. So, I got in trouble because I didn't bring any home to the wife. So I'm only going to have one of these and bring one home to the wife. So
we're really excited about tonight. We have on Professor David Siwik, who is one of my oldest and dearest friends. We've known each other since elementary school when we went to Cooper Elementary in Cooper, Michigan. Yeah. We played baseball together for Little League. His dad was our coach. We had 6 Polish people on the team. And
all last name with a ski?
Well, no, because his is Siwik.
Oh.
And of course, I'm Levian, and my grandmother was actually Bria.
Do we know why?
But the other ones were skis.
Do you know why they were skis? Because they can't spell toboggan.
I will tell you that David actually schooled, because David is a historian teacher. He actually schooled me at one time on the fact that Polak is a racial slur, because I had no idea. I always referred to myself as Polak.
Yeah. And I tell you,
he schooled me on that.
I had a student one time use that term in class, and he didn't use it a second time. I'll tell you that.
So, David, thank you so much for joining us. I see you have a mug right there, like all good teachers do. They got it's either an engineer holding it, right, or a professor. So, what do you? Central. Let's say, you know.
Absolutely.
Go Chips or Fire Up Chips.
Fire Up Chips. Yep, that's right.
You know. What? How about Row the Boat, right?
Man, you had to mention it.
So, David, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking water, City of Lansing water.
All right, it's not Flint, just to be clear.
Yes.
No.
Okay.
We're Lansing. We're different. Yeah.
So I said this to Nick last night. David has more degrees than I will ever have in my lifetime. Just run through degrees in schools with us.
If you want, you can turn and just point to your wall of degrees.
Oh, yeah, they are there. Well, let's see. I have a bachelor's degree from Central Michigan University, and that entailed also going to school as part of a study abroad program at an English university, a place called the University of Exeter. Yes, very good beer and cider in England, especially the part of England I was in then, Devon. That's where all the good apples for cider come from.
That might be why he stopped drinking.
And then I got a master's degree from Central Michigan University, and then also went to the University of Strathclyde, which is in Glasgow in Scotland. And from there got a postgraduate diploma, which is kind of like it was described to me as 2/3 or 3/4 of another master's degree. And at that point, I said, okay, I've done the school thing and the work thing at the same time. So let's try the work thing and make some money. And bowed out of school and got hired at Lansing Community College. And have been there ever since, almost 15 years now.
So That's a lot. I mean, that's a lot of schooling.
Mhm.
All I heard out of that conversation was, "Man, I'm in a lot of debt."
Yes.
So,
Well, yes and no, actually. So the good thing about graduate school is if you can convince enough people that you're smart, whether or not you actually are is, between you and yourself. But if you can convince enough people that you are, they'll pay for it, or at least part of it. And that's what happened to me. So that was kind of a good deal. Have you ever heard the term professional student?
yes.
Yeah, well, I was kind of one of those for a while, but definitely had to finance all of my undergraduate degree, which I did through the United States Department of Education, the William D. Ford loan program, which I'm very familiar with. And so, yes, I took on some debt, got other people to pay for some of it, and walked away with a lot of education.
Good. Good.
Yeah.
I say a lot of education. So it sounds like we brought on the right guy to talk about school and debt and apparently how to get a job after going to school for it.
I think we absolutely did.
Studying abroad, like that's the only reason I wanted to go to school was like the opportunity, like I could just fund, like the poor me, right? Thought about that, and I was like, oh, dude, I could just take debt to go on vacation. Like if I fail out, who cares, right? Like I'm on vacation.
Well, and knowing David and his brother Daniel as long as I have,
Yeah.
I mean, literally, we would sit on a bench in the dugout and we would talk about, who was having a better season, Alan Trammell or Lou Whitaker. I mean,
Yeah.
and like me, they were pure baseball fans. So, I told this story before on the podcast. Every day I listened to Harry Carey. I watched him on TV for 3 innings. I listened to him for 3, and I watched him for another 3. And then at night I went to bed with Ernie Harwell in my ear.
Yeah.
And I don't think, as a baseball fan, if you grew up in the 70s, it might have been a better time.
Sure.
But for anybody that grew up after the 80s, they just don't understand how great baseball was, because you had some of the greatest broadcasters ever.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't get to necessarily hear them all the time. I mean, we were lucky. We got to hear Harry and Ernie all the time. But I mean, Vin Scully was a treat because you'd hear him, once a week maybe.
Sure.
And there were just such great announcers. And man, we would talk baseball all the time, and we would listen to baseball, and we would watch baseball. We'd be hitting baseballs in the backyard. There was a whole lot of baseball going on with us. He has some pictures from. Did you guys go to the last game at Tiger Stadium?
One of the last.
One of the
It was
last.
September of 1999,
Mhm.
and went there on a Sunday afternoon. Didn't know when we bought the tickets that they were going to let you on the field before the game and take pictures, which is great. So we got pictures of standing all at the right field corner, center field where the flagpole was, left field. It was just absolutely fantastic. I mean, if you're a Tigers fan, it's like a dream come true. And
Oh yeah.
and I don't know if you ever did this, Dave. You can't do it now. But up until about 3 years ago, from the time they tore Tiger Stadium down,
Mhm.
you could actually park your car right there on Michigan Avenue
Mhm.
and go onto the field.
Yeah.
You had to know what you were looking for, and of course I did. I've been there many times and quite familiar with Detroit, so I can get around it pretty good. And so you had to look for where that little stretch of the wrought iron fence was still there. They never tore it down when they raised the rest of the stadium, and it was deceiving because it made you realize when you walked the ball diamond was still there.
Mhm.
And when you walked out there, you realize, my God, this was a small lot, because you got I-75 right there, would have been behind left field. And then you can see across I-75 there to the Motor City Casino on the other side of the freeway where it comes off Grand River Avenue. And then you look to behind where right field was, and the lumber yard, which is actually still there. And then that little lot that stadium was sandwiched in, it really kind of put things in a different perspective. But yeah, I did that a few times. And then, from the time they tore the stadium down, which was actually 10 years after they moved out of there, unfortunately, it became, one of Detroit's blighted spots, which the city has no shortage of. And then what happened was about 3 years ago, the redevelopment plan with Detroit Youth Athletic Club, and then there's a couple other entities that are involved in it. It's kind of a blend of housing And then they put a multi-use sports field in for kids that live in the neighborhood. So that's pretty cool. That's there right now. And so they made good use of the location, but stadium isn't there anymore.
If you're a history buff or a baseball fan, there's a great documentary out there. I believe it's called Trying to Save Tiger Stadium or Saving Tiger Stadium. It's a phenomenal documentary. I can tell you, my first game, I think I told this story to you. The first game I ever went to was a Tigers game. It was in 1987. I watched the Tigers play the Yankees. Eric King pitched against Tommy John.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The Tigers lost 7-0.
Well, it happened. Although they were good in 87. I mean,
They were really good in 87. That was a great year.
Yep. So my first Tiger game I went to, my mom tells me, because I was only like 2 or 3.
Oh.
And then the first one I remember going to was in 1984, actually.
Oh, great year.
The George Orwell.
Ha! Well,
I know one book.
The world.
How does that make you feel?
The
I know
world
a book.
champion.
I know a book.
It's a good book. It's a very good book.
I never read it.
Yeah, I
just.
Oh well, yeah, it's a little bit different than a book about baseball.
I heard Cliff Notes.
You never read any books.
I didn't. This is a true story. Like I had Cliff Notes, or I'd listen to like people talk and like the teacher, and that's how I'm smart enough to like get to what I need, but I'm like lazy as shit to where it's like I need the basics, right? Like all I know is it's like everybody talks about it so much. It's Big Brother, and there's like cameras. I couldn't tell you a freaking main character. I couldn't tell you a thing. I know
it's a love story. It's a quick.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Holy shit!
Here's the plot. Winston Smith is baning Julia.
Yeah.
This isn't going to sound very professorial, so bear with me, right? So he's sleeping with Julia, and Julia is a member of the party, the political party that runs the state, and it's this evil totalitarian regime where everybody's on camera, even when in your house, and doing all the other things that folks attempt to do anyways in private. And it's political commentary about the dangers of political extremes mixed in with a love story. And when Winston and Julia are in bed, they get caught by the state, Big Brother.
Sure.
And it's a terrifying moment for them. And eventually Julia disappears. Winston's tortured with rats, gets kind of ugly. And then at the end of the book, I'm going to give it away. I'll give it away. Because you told me you don't read books, so
I'm not going to read this book.
Right. So at the end of he's been completely brainwashed into believing in the state, and he's getting drunk off his Victory gin, and he sees Julia in the Victory Cafe where they're both smashed off oily Victory gin and in love with the state, and it's a depressing end to the book. So that's it. That's 1984 in 5 sentences. Yep, there you go. You don't need to read it.
I didn't. Yeah, I say exactly. All I had to do was Cliff Notes, and the teacher was great, Mr. Lewis. I mean, he was like 90 when he taught it, but he's like, open notes, and he goes, you have to have notes. You can't just read the book. And I was like, he's like, you have to read it. You can't just read out of the book while we're doing it. And so I'm like, Cliff Notes, copy paste. Like I have fucking notes. I didn't really care. Like, and then I think like all I need. My philosophy, right, isn't to be like lazy, but it was like I didn't know I was going to do real estate to be successful. Like I just knew that like all school meant to me was a D, right? Like a D meant I pass.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, hey, everybody's like, oh, do you want a doctor with an A or a doctor with a D? And I'm like, I'm not a fucking doctor, so I don't care. Like a D means I successfully walk across the stage and I no longer have to do this. Like money was my drive, not a grade.
I remember 2 science teachers we had. I mean, I think we had 3 because I think Scott Cole taught some science. But we had Scott Rayberg and Tom Rembowitz. I never had Rayberg. His kid played in the NFL.
Yeah, and Central Michigan University.
Yeah, he went to Central. Mm-hmm. I had Rembowitz, and I remember having a parent-teacher conference with him, and I think I was a sophomore at the time in biology, and he looked at my mother and he goes, your son is so smart, but he doesn't work. Yeah. And I don't understand how to motivate him. And she looked at me and she goes, what's the problem? I said, I can sit there and get a C. I'm okay with that. Yep. And unfortunately, that was me through high school until like the last semester.
Well, that was me too, actually. Believe it or not.
Yeah.
It was. And see, you were motivated by money. I discovered when I got to college that I was motivated by something else. And that was, I guess this is where the idealistic me came into existence, but I wanted to learn. And eventually I had to figure out, well, how am I going to make a living doing this? And well, find something I like doing and figure out how I can do it for a living, which is what I eventually did. And so from that point on, I looked at education as the way to accomplish two things. Number one, the satisfaction of learning as much as I can about everything. And then number two, figuring out how I can translate that into a way to make a living.
That's huge.
And
And
yeah,
now,
and
sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, and the thing I always had in mind too is, and I know this is different than the way a lot of young people think, having taught them now for many years, is I was able to think long term. Mm-hmm. And that's very, very difficult for 18, 19-year-olds to do. And not just with education, but really anything related to their future and money. And boy, Dave, you and I know lots of kids we went to school with that out of high school, oh, great, I'll go buy a new car or something like that. And instant gratification, just because you can do something doesn't necessarily mean you should. I was always able to think long term. And I know that that's a real hard thing for a lot of people to get down pat, but that's actually one of the things that motivated me, is knowing that the reward's there. It's just going to take a while to get it.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's one of the things that, every generation kind of overlooks. So, I mean, I know when I was younger, Dave and Dan both came to our wedding.
Yep.
They're two of the few people that we still talk to that came to our wedding, honestly. And, back then, Dawn and I didn't know what the hell we were doing. So, I mean, we made a lot of financial mistakes. Mm-hmm. And, I think we're going to get into that on a future episode. You had said that, we need to talk about our journeys and stuff. Yeah. So, I made a lot of financial mistakes. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what I wanted to do. Okay. I knew I liked sports. I knew that, I wanted a better life, but I really didn't know what I wanted to do. And I don't know if you know this or not, David, but I started back to school in 16 because I really like finances. And okay. My initial thought was, I can learn how to invest, and that'll help some of the kids I coach, because of course they have no money. I mean, you coached with me,
Yeah, of course.
And it kind of turned into not necessarily helping the kids I coached, but it helped my daughter because she had a surplus of money that I could invest. It helped, my mom, it helped me. And now, like David said, I mean, I'm looking long-term going, okay, I want to retire. I want to get my house paid. I want to do all of these things. And I'm not thinking so short-term as in, hey, I want to buy tickets to 4 Cubs games this year. It's more like, hey, I want to retire by the time I'm 55 or 60.
Yeah, for sure. And so you don't have game dreams anymore. I mean,
right.
Like, and it's not a disrespect to any of the kids that we coached in any way, shape, or form.
No, not at all.
Here's one of the things that I catch is so like Caitlin, right? I mean, look at the people that she kind of had around her with friends.
Yep.
And then look at some of our other, some of our problem kids and kids that wouldn't quote unquote buy into us,
yep.
Right? For one reason or another. Now, financially, we know that, I mean, one of the girls that we coach, she's a nurse, right? One of them, just these girls are they're, so again, when you talk about the circle that you surround yourself with, you watch the successes happen. David, are you seeing that with the college kids that you have? I mean, do you find the kids that are like you, right? That are wanting to educate and learn from money. Are you being able to teach them your financial thing? Hey, if you want to get paid to learn, here's how to do it. Are you able to teach kids this?
Yeah, I am. I mean, for the ones that are going to be thinking of going to grad school, I mean, the pay to learn was really only a very brief thing for me, though. I mean, it was only 3 years of my educational attainment. And that actually was never a goal of mine. It was always what came afterwards. I actually used to kind of get upset when people would call me a professional student. I thought it was like a pejorative term, and I guess it kind of was thrown at me in such a manner, like, grow up. You're 20 some years old, get out of college and get a job, that sort of thing. But what I am able to, or try to do with my students, is to help them understand long-term, and also to look at education, not necessarily the way I looked at it. It took me a while to figure this out. And that is that the skills are as important as the subjects. So like my job I have right now for Lansing Community College, I teach history, but that's not actually my full-time job there. I was hired to teach history as a part-time faculty member, 15 years ago. But for a long time, I've been a full-time employee in the college administration. I actually worked in the office of the college president for a number of years. And then now I actually work in our corporate training area. And what I do is I design trainings that area businesses contract with us. We train their employees. So to make it as simple as possible, let's say that, there's a company that makes mufflers. There is one in Lansing that we do business with. So it's in my mind, right? There's the muffler company, and they manufacture mufflers. And they've got 10 new employees that need to learn how to do a type of weld so they can put the mufflers together the right way. They call Lansing Community College up and they say, okay, we have 10 people that need to be trained to do this type of MIG welding. And we say, okay, we'll do it. Here's how long it's going to take. This is what it's going to cost. This is where the training's going to take place, right? So they can't, their employees, they're not concerned with enrolling in college, getting college credits, and getting a degree. They have one thing they need to be trained on, and that's it. So we do it, they're out the door. So that's what I do for the colleges. I put those trainings together. And that also involves having to spend college money, which is always, something you got to be careful with because it's the taxpayer and the tuition payer's money. So you got to be very careful with how you do it. And
those two just don't seem to be like, because, as the guy who, we all know I went to some college, but like as the guy who just hates education in the first place, I think it's a fucking waste of life. I thought you guys just like blew all this money. No. Tuition keeps going up. I figure if you need more money, you just cost me more money. Like, again, as a tax, what do you care about me? So you're telling me that you actually think about your decisions.
Very much. And
really?
And a community college is very different than the way a university works. So,
I did go to a community college for a minute.
You read about a university and you think, my God, MSU charges $580 a credit hour, which they do for undergraduate tuition. Most of MSU's money comes from the tuition that they get from the students, and then some of it comes from the state of Michigan. That would be you.
Yep.
A community
welcome, children.
What's that?
You're welcome, children.
Well, but they do things like, invent vaccines. So, hey, universities have a functioning society.
Wait. This is naive me. I thought Pfizer invented the vaccine.
They did, but you have to
actually invent vaccines.
Well, university researchers are usually the ones that are involved in major medical research. So Pfizer can have people that know how to invent vaccines. So they have a function, and MSU is actually working on nuclear energy. So one of these days we can have cheap power.
This episode is going to make me sound so dumb.
No.
Like, I want everybody that's listening, literally, they're just gonna be like, wow, this guy didn't know that there's actually people that do things in college. Because I really just I think of college as just overgrown high school, where it's like, read a fucking book, get an egg, and then go get a job and doing something that you don't anything about, right?
No, not necessarily.
How many of the percent? David, you're in admissions, you're in things. So
there are classes like that, but
there
are also very applicable classes that you can take. We have
a professor here. So how many people, do you guys get the percentage out of LCC? Do you get the percentage of people that leave yours and get a job in their actual field? Do you know the number?
I don't know the number off the top of my head. We keep track of it. I'd have to look it up. Our college has really three, I would say, for the most part. Now you got to be careful when you're trying to group a large number of people, thousands, into three categories. But for the most part, if you look at our student body, most people that go there are going to fall in one of three categories in terms of answering your question. What do they do when they're out of there? Well, a lot of them go to MSU or CMU or Ohio State or the University of Michigan, right? So they're onto the university, and there hopefully they get a degree in biomedicine and invent the COVID-19 vaccine. So that's what a third of them do. And some of them, go to MSU and don't. But that's human nature.
Right.
Not everybody's going to be able to figure it out. So that's a third of them. Then a third of them are there for, they don't want a degree and they don't want to transfer. They're there for a variety of reasons. Maybe they want to take 2 math classes because it'll get them a promotion at work. And they actually want it on a college transcript. Maybe they want to go into an apprenticeship. And they won't get accepted into that apprenticeship until they have so many credit hours in math or science or something like that. That's a third of them. And then the other third are there to get our associate degrees or credited certificate programs like HVAC and auto mechanics and CNC lathes and mill workers and all that stuff, which is a huge part of actually what our college does. So I work in a facility that has all of those classes. You walk down the hall of the building I work in, and part of that building was designed specifically to train the skilled trades workers at the General Motors plant that employs 5,000 people and is like a mile and a half from where we're located. So we have a program where we teach people how to operate a CNC mill, a lathe, and everything from programming the logic control board that's tells the machine how to tool itself up to watching it while it spits the tool out and then inspecting it when it's done. And then they go work at General Motors, and GM loves it because they think, wow, we gave LCC all this money to build this facility and they get to train our employees. So when they come to work for us, we don't have to.
Exactly.
So it's a good deal.
They got to cut down on turnover at that point. Like now you have educated in your field people. Like this is that is genius for GM, right? Because they're taking, and okay, you get the 3 smart kids that are like, yeah, like I need to be paid what I'm worth. So then they go to not GM, they go to Ram, right? Right. Chrysler Fiat. I'm just kidding. But say,
so
that's why, but that I mentioned that because that's why community colleges were started in this country. Actually, that was our purpose from the beginning. And nurses in Lansing, we train probably half of the nurses, and there's 2 huge hospitals in Lansing. Dave, you probably know that. There's McLaren Hospital and then Sparrow, and that's a huge part of the economy in the area. And about half of those nurses came from our nursing school.
Well, I say my wife's an occupational therapist, and she went to CC, right? Grand Rapids Community College.
Mm-hmm. When you look at the community colleges, there's one in Detroit that obviously is training a lot of nurses. There's Lansing, there's Grand Rapids Community, and then there's Kalamazoo Valley, which when you look at what they do with those nursing programs, I mean, they're 2 years, you get your RN's degree and you hit the ground running. Yeah. And honestly, by the way, just so everybody that's listening knows, this is going to be a long episode. Nick, you're going to like this.
No, I don't like anything you say.
You're going to like this.
People need to realize whatever David says, I usually don't like unless it's, hey, I got a free beer for you.
I think you're going to like this. We are going to get into some things you don't like later towards the end because David listened to our minimum wage episode, but you're going to like this. So one of the things I admire the most about my longtime friend here. Yeah. So as he's starting his career as a professor, he knew that was not going to pay him to live in the way he needed to live. So David delivered pizzas for how long?
For the first year, I worked at Lansing Community College. Yep, because I got hired to teach just a couple classes, and on paper, it looked like I was making great money because you're paid by the credit hour.
Yep.
But in actuality, I mean, you're not making very good money. And that I've never been one to shy away from doing what it takes to make ends meet. So yeah, I got a job delivering pizzas and actually also helped manage the store on the nights I wasn't out delivering pies to hungry folks in Kalamazoo.
He is one of those. He is one of those hustlers. I mean, him and his brother both. If it needs to be done, they're like, "Hey, I'm gonna go do this. I'm gonna make some extra money doing it."
So now, real quick, on a side question, what did your father do for a living?
My father worked in a small machine shop and tool and die factory in Kalamazoo.
Yeah, so he was a laborer, right? And like I find that quite often, like is like people that their parents are like laborers. I mean, my dad was like hands-on mechanic, like auto body type thing. My mom warehousing, like physical.
My mom was a
right?
teacher.
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, you're the mix of both. Like you're willing to go like
We're the
get
blend.
your hands dirty and do it, and then you're also like, hey, I need this education side. Like I have an uncle that has a college degree. I have an aunt that got it like I don't know when she was like 90. But like education really isn't in my family. My cousins and stuff like start getting it, but you know, I think it's like that what gets handed down to you type of a thing. And
So when I look back on people that impacted me,
yep.
When I look at my youth sports career, I played soccer for many, many years. I played Little League for many, many years. And
I was going to ask about that hat, actually.
Man United? Oh,
Man United.
I'm a Manchester
he's
United
a soccer
fan.
I've been to Old Trafford before, actually.
I'm not jealous at all. Like, all right, this conversation is done. Let's hang up with this guy.
Anyways, like I was saying, Tom Sr., David's father.
Okay.
He was my Little League coach for almost 3 years.
Yep.
He was the type that this is one of my favorite stories. So, you never smoke in the dugout.
I mean, I do.
You do not. Nick's been an umpire for many, many years. His grandfather is one of the best known umpires in Little League up here. But so Tom Sr. would smoke a pipe.
Oh yeah.
During games.
During games.
Oh yeah, he'd go behind the dugout.
He would go behind the dugout.
Hey, this is in the the 1980s and I guess early 90s. And
It was
sure.
Whenever, and that was before as my dad would say, the goddamn smoke police got everywhere.
He would go behind the dugout.
Your father sounds like the guy I want to hang out with.
I would be.
So great.
I would be. Yeah.
I love his dad so much. He would go behind the dugout to smoke his pipe because he never wanted to do it around us. Mind you, just like Pinery, but no wood dugouts. It was all just metal fence.
Yeah, just chain link fence. And Dave's mom's sitting in the the stands smoking like
a cigarette.
So it's like, but Dad's going to be decent around the children and go.
Yeah, he didn't smoke around us. He just walked 5 feet behind.
Yeah, he'll go walk 5 feet behind the dugout, and then at least he can say in his mind, "Well, I didn't actually smoke in the dugout."
Gosh.
One of my favorite people growing up. He was just phenomenal.
His heart was in the right place.
It always was.
So, absolutely.
I say we've talked quite a bit. We haven't really hit on the big debt aspect.
Yeah, let's talk about debt a little bit.
So we want to give our listeners advice. Like, what's the best thing I can do? I mean, you've already said, hey, if you can tell people you're smart, you're going to get scholarships or something.
Right.
Like,
yep. So you're going to have to finance, unless you come from a family that had a lot more money than mine did. And they can pay for your education. Mine couldn't. So it was, okay, Dave, you're going to figure it out. I think number one, you absolutely have to think long-term, and you have to have a sort of a serious grown-up conversation with yourself. Am I doing this because it's fun? There are other ways to meet girls and go to the bar. You don't have to go to college to do that. Or
he lies.
Yeah.
You didn't go to college.
I did.
Yeah, for a year.
2.
Okay.
So you got to have a good conversation with yourself. Am I doing this because it's fun?
Yes.
Or am I doing it because I want to get something out of it? And they don't have to be mutually exclusive. But if the only reason why you're going to college is because you think it's, a great way to blow off 2 or 3 or 4 years of your life, then it's probably not a good thing to spend money on and to go into debt over. But if you are able to think long term and understand that I'm going to make sure this pays off, and there's a lot of accountability in that, then finance it, but be careful about how you do it. So let me tell you, if I can, a couple examples of what I mean by this.
Yeah, please do.
So there are a variety of ways you could finance your education. You can go to a bank and borrow money. Not a good idea.
Why not?
A reason I'll get into in a minute.
Okay.
Or you can go to the government and borrow money. A better idea. And here's why.
Now, sorry, can I ask you real quick before we get into that?
Yeah.
So by going to the government, so we know if you go to the bank, you're going to go to like an actual physical building and try to borrow money. But if you go to the government, I know when I went to college for my David says year and a half, whatever it was, I went to CC for a year, for half a year, and Davenport University for a year
Sure.
on a bowling scholarship. But so when I did that, I had to fill out this thing called FAFSA, right?
FAFSA, right? The free application for financial student aid or for federal student aid. Yep.
Okay, so so now is that government money there technically?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's mostly yes.
Okay.
So most of the money that you borrow from the government to go to school on is from the federal government. It's through this thing called the William D. Ford Student Loan Program. And
is that in Michigan only or everywhere?
Around the United States.
Oh, okay. So Ford is huge.
Well, William, yeah, and it's not. I don't think it's the same Ford as the Ford family. It might be, but I don't think it is. I actually think it's named after a congressman from way back when that passed the law to set this up. I could be wrong on that, but
so not Ford Carr, not Gerald R. Ford.
I don't think so.
Ford.
No.
Farming Ford.
Yep, different Fords.
Jeez, there's too many.
Yeah, common name. So that's the federal student loan program, and there's all kinds of different loans within that program. There's subsidized loans, there's unsubsidized loans, and this is what I mean by better idea to borrow from the government, but be careful. So unsubsidized loans are those that start accruing interest immediately. So I borrowed $10,000 to go to school, and from the moment the promissory note is signed, I'm accumulating interest on that loan.
Yeah.
And I'm going to have to pay it back with interest. A subsidized loan is called that because the government subsidizes, even though they're loaning you the money. I mean, it's kind of an accounting trick, but here's the deal with it. They subsidize it, meaning they it doesn't start accumulating interest until you graduate from college. So you get a loan, and then you have the duration while you're in school before it starts accumulating interest. The theory being, if you graduate and get a job right away and can start paying it back, you aren't already in deep doo-doo because of all the interest that accrued through the years you were in college. So nowadays, the interest rates are very low. That's not going to be as big of an issue as it was, 25 years ago when I took out my first student loans. The interest rates were historically, back then, people thought they were low. They were higher than they are now. But like in the early 1980s, late 1970s, when interest rates were double digits because inflation was so high, it's what the Federal Reserve did to try to get the inflation rate under control, is they kept raising interest rates. Now, in that lending environment, a subsidized loan is a huge deal, because if you've got a 12 or 13% interest rate on your loan and you're in college for 4 years, right, and you borrowed, say, $10,000 a year, I mean, that's real money that you've already tacked on to all the principal that you borrowed anyways. Now, that gets us back to the bank. The bank doesn't have the sympathy that Uncle Sam has. They're in it to make money. So you go to a bank, they'll loan you money to go to school, but they'll usually require to have a co-signer, sometimes two co-signers. Interest rate usually starts accruing immediately. And if you don't pay the bank money back, the same thing happens if you don't pay your mortgage back or your credit cards or your car loan. They get nasty. They want their money back, and they're going to get it no matter what. The federal government will eventually get nasty too, but they give you all kinds of repayment options, and will work with you literally on the phone. Can you afford $40 a month? Yes, good. That's what we'll set it at for now until you start making more money. They'll work with you. A private bank, I mean, they can't. They're in the business to take your money and loan it to somebody else, and everybody wins because everybody pays the loans back and the bank gets the interest. And hey, that's how the banking system works, right? So they're less sympathetic.
So hang on, here's my question. So like, my daughter's in school.
Yep.
And myself, I don't fill out FAFSA for myself because I know I'm not going to qualify for anything but a loan. But for her, I fill out FAFSA. And she qualifies because she doesn't make a lot of money for a Pell Grant every year.
Yeah.
Yeah, and grants are good because they're grants, they aren't loans.
Right. They're free money.
It's gifted money. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
But she also qualifies for a subsidized loan every year.
Okay.
Okay.
And they don't just say, hey, you've qualified for a loan. Would you like it?
No, they just give it to you.
They just give it to her.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then she calls me and she's like, hey, Dad, they say I don't have a bill this term. What is this about? And I'm like, yeah, we'll take care of it. So then I have to go through the rigmarole of emailing financial people and saying, no loan. We don't want to do this. We're just going to pay it.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's, it's weird because that's kind of what happened to me. I got a Pell Grant because I single mom and no fucking money. And then I was at CC, right? And I was working a full-time job. I was working like 60 hours a week.
Yeah.
And then I was like, hey, and they gave me, they're like, oh, you don't owe. And I was like, what do you mean I don't owe? They're like, oh, you got a loan. And I was like, no, the hell I don't. Like, here's my cash. You're going to take my damn money.
Yeah.
I'm going to go close this loan out real quick. Like, I'm not paying interest. Like, it was weird. I was dumb. But like, then I transferred from there. And honestly, I just paid $10,000 at Davenport to go for bowling. I was okay to pay a crap ton of money for bowling. That's all it was. And I quickly signed on that line and I was like, oh, I'll just pay it while I'm going to school. And they're like, you don't have to. And I was like, I don't have to do a lot of things in life. Like, I don't have to be here.
Well, so that sounds to me like it's a little bit different than it was when I went to school.
Okay.
25 years ago. Here's what happened when I took out my student loans. I remember it clearly. First of all, I did my first 2 years at Kalamazoo Valley Community College, and I didn't even apply for financial aid. I went to the pay window with my money that I'd saved up working at Steve DeYoung's Big Top Market in Plainwell.
Yes.
Wait.
And
we have a Lou DeYoung's right here in town in Wyoming.
No, we have a Steve DeYoung's here in Wyoming.
It used to be owned by Lou DeYoung, his dad. Yeah, and now it's owned by Steve, I think.
Steve owns it. So
yeah. Same guy.
Before Dave gets into this too far, my grandmother, who Dave knows, used to work with Steve at Jewel.
Oh yeah.
For many, many years.
Yeah.
She hated him.
Ha! I liked his enthusiasm.
He was very enthusiastic.
He's a very enthusiastic guy. And actually it's funny because, you look back now all those years later and I actually think of that job more than I imagined I would have, being in my 40s now and professionally employed and making a lot more money than I made back then, obviously.
It's kind of that first job thing.
Right. But it was. And when I worked there, Steve DeYoung was probably about, I doubt he was even as old as I am now. No older.
Yeah. He was young.
Yeah. And kind of just starting out in terms of his eventual ownership of, even though he'd owned that store for a while. But yeah, so I worked my job and was real proud. I walked to the pay window at Kalamazoo Valley Community College and I had my cash. And I forked it over and boom, I got my little card that said, here's your classes, here's the balance due 0. And it was great. Now, get to Central Michigan University. I can't afford to pay that out of pocket. I'd have to work, 300 hours a week at Big Top, and that's not possible. So, time to borrow money. And when I did that, I was taken into a room at the library at Central Michigan University, sat down in front of a little 8-inch TV VCR combo and said, watch this video and pay attention. This is going to tell you what you're about to do. And it was a loan counseling video. And every other sentence in the video was, this is a loan. You will have to pay it back. And then every other sentence, so not the one that said this is a loan, you will have to pay it back, but then the next set of every other sentences was an explanation of interest and what interest means. So when we loan you money, we don't just ask for the money back that we loaned you. We have this thing called interest. And if you never learned about it in high school, you're going to learn about it now. And after watching that for an hour and a half, then the pieces of paper came out. And the pieces of paper said the same thing the video said. This is a loan. You will pay it back. Yeah. This is the interest rates that you can expect to pay. However, do note, that interest rates vary. And your subsidized loans will not have an interest rate fixed to them until you graduate from college. It could be considerably higher than what they are right now. And I understood all that. I said, yeah, I get it. I get it. This isn't a gift. I'm not going to go take the money and go piss it away at the casino or buy some stupid car. It's given to me for a purpose and I got to pay it back. So they had serious loan counseling there. All kidding aside, and actually when I graduated from CMU with my bachelor's degree, they did the same thing. This time they sat us down in a big auditorium where your fellow classmates who were about to graduate with their bachelor's degrees were with you. And this time they said, now you're going to pay it back. And here are the terms you can expect. And we'll do all kinds of nasty things. We'll garnish your wages, we'll haul your ass into court. And oh, by the way, if you declare personal bankruptcy, you'll still have to pay them back. So it was made clear, you're going to pay the money back.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask this because, you know, when my daughter graduated high school, David came to the open house. And I remember 3 or 4 of her former teammates had said to her, man, you're so smart. You're going to GRCC before you go to, you know, a 4-year institution because you're going to save so much money. I'm so far in debt because I went to Grand Valley first.
Yep.
And David just mentioned he went to Kalamazoo Valley for 2 years and then he transferred to Central. So mind you, he's now a professor at Lansing Community College. Is there any downfall to going to a community college first?
You know, I would say no. As the academic social scientist, I would say, yes, David, but you also have confirmation bias, meaning, yeah, because you did it yourself. So of course you'd say that. But, you know, the only thing I could think, okay, let's say that I had intended from the time I was, 16 years old, I'm going to go to Brown University and get a PhD in, medieval sword fighting. And I'm going to be the expert in the world on that. And I want my transcript to look as fancy as possible. And, you are the 1 in 16,000 people that would actually get a job in that. Okay, maybe it wouldn't look so good to have Kalamazoo Valley Community College on your college transcript. But for 99% of the rest of the world, it doesn't matter at all. In fact, when I went to CMU, they accepted all of the credits that I earned at Kalamazoo Valley. And in Michigan, it's a little bit different in other states, although not that much. But in Michigan, most of the community colleges have agreements with the universities where the credits will be accepted. So, and when you go to apply for a job, in the rare case that they actually look at your grades on your transcript, and usually they don't, they just want to know that you got the degree if it's even a requirement. And obviously for a lot of jobs it isn't, but the job I have right now, there were more than 1 degree was required to get it. And so, yeah, they're going to look. The community college isn't even on my university transcript. It's not. I could send the transcripts there and show I went, but it's not on it. It's the credits that transferred over, and that's it. So
you had said something earlier. So you go to Michigan State and you're paying like $580 a credit hour, which maybe I'm wrong on that. So
that's about what it is, yeah. For an undergraduate.
What percentage are you paying at Lansing Community less than that?
Oh, a lot less. Our in-district tuition is $111 a credit hour.
So I mean, we're talking, a fifth of that.
Yeah, a fifth. That's correct.
20%.
So you can get so many, you can basically 4 classes in for the price it would take you to take 1 class at Michigan State.
Yeah, you can do half your education for a fifth of the cost, basically, of what that same half of your education, if you look at it as a 4-year degree, and you could do 2 years at, say, Lansing Community College, 2 years at MSU. I mean, yeah, you could look at it as you saved, you spent 20% of what you would have for the first 2 years.
Yeah.
Well, I know when I went to school, we looked at, and again, we graduated a year apart. So I'm class of 95, he's class of 96.
Yep.
When I looked at schools, I'm like, yeah, I got to go to a 4-year school or I'm a loser because I'm going to community college. and I got accepted to a couple four-year schools, and I decided, yeah, I don't want to go there. And I ended up going to Kalamazoo Valley, which was one of the best mistakes I ever made because I loved my time at Kalamazoo Valley.
So did I. And
It
Dave,
was-
I did the same thing. I did the exact same thing. I said to myself when I graduated from high school, I don't want to go to Western. I don't want to go to MSU. I kind of wanted to go to Central because I was one of the band nerds in high school, and we did band camp at Central. So I was familiar with it. I liked the campus. But also said to myself, yeah, I don't know if I'm really ready for that yet. I was kind of I don't know, a bratty kid,
Yeah.
a little bit wild, and knew that once you got to university, it was kind of time to take this shit seriously.
Yeah.
And it is because, well, I mean, you're there for a reason. It's like time to grow up and put your big boy pants on and get something out of this. So you aren't the guy that's 35 years old, has college degrees, and thinks, geez, what was all that for? I could have, worked my job for $12 an hour and not wasted all that time and money. And I didn't want to turn into that. So
that was, this will surprise both of you. So my best friend graduated a year before me, right? Like went to the East Coast for school, very like prestigious engineering school, and he bowled, right? So I got.
He's still out there, right?
He actually just moved to Texas now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So.
But that's the wedding you went to.
Yep.
Okay.
Much.
So yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Right. Yeah. So I'm going with him to some bowling tournaments, right? Because it's college and Cornell. The guy, the guy
Cornell,
oh, man, you should join and blah blah blah. And they go, we'll get you a guaranteed scholarship. And so they go, all you have to do is apply. So I applied for Cornell, got accepted into Cornell with a scholarship, and even at the money, like I'm doing math back then, and I'm sitting here going, yeah, I can't do this. Like, like all the like I leave state, like because I'm still poor at this time, right? Like I'm so poor to where like debt just they're like, Jesus, dude. Like, so I mean, right, like my 50% of me was like, oh dude, if you go here, like it's prestigious, it's whatever. The other 50% of me is like, all right, I have to take room and board, I'm broke as shit, like I have nothing else, like again, I'm gonna go for bowling. Like, what's that gonna get me in life, right? Like, it's say nothing.
Well, Cornell degree. I mean, hey, there's something to be said about that. But I absolutely I understand what you're saying. And that's it. We have a term we use sometimes in academia. It's actually a term I hate, but I'll use it. It's a term they call cultural capital. And what it means is that even if, well, I'll use myself as an example, okay? So my mom went to college. Obviously, she was a teacher. I mean, you got to go to college to be a teacher. And she ended up having a great career in education. She actually retired as the superintendent of a public school district, which is pretty cool.
Wow, yeah.
Right? I mean, that's it. That's the top of your game in that field. So good for her.
She went to live with the snow people.
Yes. That's right, way up north. So
way up north,
right? And my dad worked in a factory, and it was a good job to have for that. And I didn't have the cultural capital that somebody that would go to Cornell would have. So I would have been a complete fish out of water there, and knew that when I was 18. I actually didn't even know that I had the cultural. I didn't use the term back then. 18-year-olds don't talk about cultural capital. This one didn't, but I didn't have it. And I knew when I was 18 that I didn't have something that other kids that went to places like that had. Now, later on in life, I eventually did end up going to some places like that and figured it out. People can figure anything out if they're of average intelligence and given the opportunity to do it. So, but, you have to learn all this stuff, and then eventually it starts to sink in. But these old school Ivy League universities like Cornell, I mean, they were set up in an era that is long past, but yet still function in that era and try to do two things. They still try to be the epitome of an elitist institution that, the multi-generations back wealthy families send their kids to because that's where dad went and grandpa went, and And in the America of 130 years ago, even if Johnny slept through every class in Cornell and was given quote unquote gentleman C's and walked out of there with the ability to get a BAC of 0.35 and not much else, he was going to get a job because his dad was Mr. So-and-so and he had a Cornell degree.
Yep.
So the universities like those still operate to some extent off that mindset. But then on the other hand, they try to be a university that says anyways, they're going to reach out to the average ordinary Jane and Joe and offer an education at Cornell to the plebeians. I don't know that it necessarily works, but that's the mindset now that they operate off of. That's a whole different world, though, than the type of education you would get at a public university or community college, and on purpose.
I'm okay with sleeping and getting a C. Like,
Yeah.
so like what? Because like honestly, so I'm at the point right now. So I did go to college, and I honestly it sucks because I thought CC was literally just glorified high school. I mean, there was fights in the courtyard. Grandpa's Community College was just it was so trash. It just right like it was high school kids like ghetto just throw. I mean, right like the cops were patrolling the damn courtyards. It was so horrible. I went to Davenport and like my life like open. I was like, wow, like people like they want to be here, right? Like it's not like you're forced into things, and there's no drug selling right in the courtyard. I think Rapids is just tough.
I think part of that is where the school is located too. I mean, here Grand Rapids Community College is right downtown.
Yeah.
It's also the history too of Grand Rapids. So Lansing Community College is right downtown in Lansing, actually, too. Very different than what you're describing at GRCC. Not at all like that, actually. It's much more like a university campus.
Sure.
But Grand Rapids Community College, its history is, it really was started way before community colleges were even around, actually. Grand Rapids Community College goes back to the early 1900s, and it was started as what you would call a glorified high school. After the Second World War, when the community colleges came into existence, the college was reformed into a community college, which is where it gets its name.
Sure.
But I think because of that background of being like an urban second high school, that's basically what it was started as. Maybe it still has some of that legacy. I have a friend from grad school that teaches history there, and I went to a conference at GRCC about Dave, it was the last time I saw you.
Yeah, I have a picture of us from then.
That's what brought me there. I was at a conference at Grand Rapids Community College. On the way back home, I said, "Hey, I need to stop by."
Stopped in Byron Center.
There you go.
So yeah, so that was the last time I was there, and it was summertime, so I didn't notice anybody taking advantage of the last the glory days of selling weed before it became legal, and but I don't know, maybe it still goes on there.
Well, and I know that with Kalamazoo Valley, it really is not in Kalamazoo.
Sure.
I mean, it's out on 9th Street and I want to say O Avenue.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Out by Texas Corners.
Yep.
So it's way out of Kalamazoo. I mean, it's nowhere really near Kalamazoo.
And put there on purpose for that.
Correct.
Yeah, the idea was to be out in the burbs, and
going there did feel like a glorified high school, but at the same time, you knew that you weren't anywhere near a city.
Sure.
Really. And I don't know. I know the education I was getting there, the first semester I took, I didn't care. Because I'm like, yeah, it's like high school. And I got, a C+ average. And I'm like, hell, I just paid money for that. And then the next semester there, I was on the president's list because I'm like, if I'm paying money, I'm going to get good grades.
Yeah. And that money motivating factor, it's actually important. And I guess it kind of gets back to our, thinking about debt. So, I mean, I'm a historian. I have to do finances for my job at the college as an administrator there, and keep track of money. So, but I'm certainly not an expert on finances and wouldn't claim to be. But yet at the same time, I can look at how I finance my education, and then I think about what am I going to get out of it. And that's how I always look at things. And is this value that it's worth taking debt on. I mean, I think it was, and it would be hard to argue against it. My job I have right now, my salary in 1 year is twice the maximum debt I took on for all of my education. Okay, so it's kind of hard to argue that.
Twice the maximum debt you took on.
Yeah, right. So if you add all the money I borrowed to go to school,
Sure.
my salary right now is twice that. So okay, it paid off, right? I mean, it'd be hard to argue that it didn't.
Well, and that's huge. I
Yeah.
mean, like,
Yeah, and again, it wasn't always that way. Dave, you're right. The first year I worked at the college, I delivered pizzas because I didn't make anywhere near the kind of money I do now. But you know what? I worked there long enough. I said there's an opportunity here that even if full-time faculty position doesn't open up, there's other things I can do that will be good for the college, and I'll find interest in the work. It'll be meaningful to me, and I did. And the other thing is too, thinking long term. And I went to a conference that we held at Lansing Community College. It was about student debt, actually, about like 5 years ago. And we had one of the trustees of Michigan State University. So the trustees are the folks that, you know, are elected and run the college,
Yep.
in addition to like the president and the provost and all that. And one of the trustees at MSU at the time, he owns about half the property in Lansing. Very, very well-known businessman around here. Very well-known. And he said, you know, I talk to the undergraduates at MSU, the freshmen, when they come in, and I always tell them, you gotta think long-term. You gotta think long-term. That's a hard lesson to teach 18-year-olds, and he's right. And you know, if we're talking about debt and education, again, my example is it'd be pretty hard to argue, I think, that it wasn't an investment worth making. But I am always baffled by not that people complain about the cost of education, because it is astronomically high, but that they will complain about that, but then you will see them have no problem financing a $58,000 pickup truck that's going to be a worthless piece of shit in 10 years. Right?
hey,
And they think, wow, I'll go out and $800 a month getting one of those, no problem. But pay my kids tuition to go to school? No way, that's highway robbery. And again, they aren't mutually exclusive. College tuition is to the point where a lot of people can't afford to go there anymore, and that's a problem. And I'll be the first to raise my hand and say that. But at the same time, why do people have no problem going in debt over silly consumer goods that they don't need, are way overpriced, will never retain the value that they're going into debt over, but yet something that can pay off long term, they balk at it?
So I'm sure you have not listened to last night's episode yet.
I did listen to the first half of it, and then I got called back to work.
Did you hear about this truck story?
I started to. And that's about when I had to stop listening, because my paying job, that darn thing that pays that salary, I had to get back to it. So
that happens.
Wow. That's me and David, mind you, 3 years ago.
Oh wow.
Look at the hair.
All right, David. Wow,
see,
David.
That's why Dave was shocked. Yeah, see, that's why Dave was shocked when he saw this.
Like it, David, you're in your 40s.
Yeah.
You finally decided to become a man. I'm sorry I learned a little early, but
I love it.
Those listening, I just pointed to my beard and caressed it a little bit. And David and David both have beards, so right. I say, welcome to the manhood.
So just to let you know, David, so yeah, telling this story last night, and
okay,
I'm sure you'll listen to the rest of the episode. But basically, this truck loan was for over $700 a month for 7 years.
Oh, why would you do that?
I can't answer that question.
Because the thing is okay, if you've got Bill Gates money and you go out and pay cash for the thing, okay, $58,000 when you have net worth in the billions, that's like me dropping a dime in the street. Who cares? Right. But on, the rest of the world's salary, my house that you're looking at right now, it's in the north side of Lansing, right in the city. And one of the reasons why I bought this house is because it's a nice house that didn't cost what it would have if I bought it even in East Lansing. So when we're talking about spending $58,000 $60,000, $70,000 on a truck. I look at my house and think, yeah, that would like pay off the house.
Right.
And you're going to buy a car for that kind of money? What am I missing?
Well, I think it's very hard for me because, like, I mean, my first house was like literally 58.5,
Yeah.
right? So, I mean, I could never purchase a house or a car that costs as much as one of my houses.
No.
Yeah.
I do have a couple that are lower than that now, type of a thing. But like, I say, just I don't know. I'm not that kind of guy to go out and realize that, hey, if I put this money away, like I'll have $60,000 in 7 years, type thing. Like,
Like my max for a car is 20 grand.
See, and I think it's weird because I think my max is 15. Like, that's hard to say. Like, I think the max is really 12. Like, if I had to put like a real number to it, like 12.
That's how I am. And I've always paid cash for my cars. I've never financed a car.
I financed one time because I got 1.3%. And to me, like my money was like I had 15,000 sitting in Lake Michigan, and I'm making 3%, and it was like I was still making money on my money. So it was like I started doing math, and I'm like, okay, so instead of making 30, I make 20, but like I'm making 20. Like I could get rid of it and not make anything, or I could make $20. Like at this point, it just makes sense to make $20, man. Like and like everything after 15,000, you don't make money on. So like when you're doing it, it's like cool. If I'm putting away $200, let's say every month, like to get to my 15, now I'm not making anything above that. So really, it was the only time I financed a car because like we're like, all right, hey, here's $200. I actually made $20 on it. Here's $200. I made $20. Like, so financially, education wise, like that's why 12 grand. Like, cause like if I'm financing it at that like 1 point something, like it was like 200.
It's not much.
Bucks, $200 a month or something.
Yeah.
I'm making. You're letting me make money, like really. And I mean, now I have a little bit more than that. So it's like, would I pay cash? I don't know. If they offer me a 1% or 1.5% loan again type thing, I would probably take the loan. Yeah. Still even to the because we talked about it on the car buying episode where it was like the only time I think I would tell anybody to buy something is like 0% because it's like, all right, if you got the cash that you can back it up and you're getting 0% loan and you're just going to go buy it anyway, like we talk about Bill Gates or even the kid that we're going to have on eventually, like 19-year-old, dude, if you're staying at home and you're completely comfortable and you have 40K that you've saved up and you have money above that for the, oh crap happens, like, dude, cover your gaps, do everything. I'm probably going to let you get a 0% loan and just make your payments on it because it's free money.
Yeah, 0% loan is that's a different scenario, especially because I mean, 0% inflation is going to mean that you're actually paying less as on. Theoretically, if your wage keeps up, your savings keeps up with the rate of inflation, then that loan actually kind of becomes less money as in terms of what it costs you out of your pocket. But that curiously enough, financing my education is one of the things that really taught me by necessity, financial responsibility, because for a lot of years, that was the debt I had. And it was like, I could take out any more debt. I already got plenty. So I'm not going to borrow money to buy cars. People get in trouble with credit cards, stuff like that. I had to learn the hard way, but I did. And it's like, eventually you understand what debt is and when it's to be avoided.
Well, and thinking back 30 years ago, when
I was one,
fuck off. Thinking back 30 years ago when Dave and Dan and I were sitting on a bench,
playing Little League. Yep.
Playing Little League. Yeah. Talking about who was having a better season, Alan Trammell or Prince Fielder. Did you ever think we'd be sitting here 30 years later talking about the smart moves of finance?
No, that's what happens when you turn into a boring old guy. Last night I was teaching my Michigan history class and I got all excited showing my students this little video of guys building a barn out of hand-hewn shakes like they did in the 1830s. I'm getting all excited. So I say, oh, look at the axe that guy's using. Look at how he's putting this together. And And isn't it neat when he talks about the family that built the original barn didn't have nails, so they had to improvise and tie the shakes down with logs they rolled over it with vines that they used to make rope. And I'm getting all excited about it. And the students, it's in a conference call like this because we can't have face-to-face classes right now, but I can see their faces on the other end going, yeah, that's interesting. So you know what, Dave? Yeah. So when you get old, you get boring. And it's not boring anymore.
I'm never bored by any of our conversations.
No.
I mean, I love talking money. I love talking baseball. I'm gonna say this right now. So spring training's going on. I think at some point in the next few weeks
we're gonna go.
That would be awesome. I can't.
All three of us are like, yes.
I'd love to.
I would love to, but I can't leave right now. I got a booming business right now.
I've been down there twice for spring training and was going to go last year actually, but couldn't. And oh well, we'll be back to normal one day.
I think we should do a spring training episode at some point here, just talking about baseball.
I'd love to. If you want to have a guest on.
Say David.
I think honestly it's gonna be me and you, and David's gonna join us, and Dan's gonna get on, and he might send a message to Tom, and Tom will get it.
Yeah.
So Tom, I believe, pitched against Derek Jeter.
He did. I went to the game. Dave's talked about me and my twin brother Dan. We have an older brother, Tom. So Dave was between us in school.
Yeah, so Tom graduated 94. I graduated 95. The twins graduated 96.
Yeah, so we're all Cooper Elementary, Plano High School baseball kids.
And mind you, Tom is probably the best baseball player I ever saw.
Oh yeah, he was good. And so he pitched against Derek Jeter because when we were in high school is when Jeter was at Kalamazoo Central High School. That's where we went.
Sure.
And I went to the game. I'll tell you right now, it was okay. I used to like going to watch games at Kalamazoo Central when my brother, Plainwell played them because they had a real nice stadium.
Yeah, they did.
I mean, for a high school ball diamond, it was like, wow, this is nice. They actually like mow the grass and the infield's level. I mean, it's like, pretty good for high school. So Derek Jeter was there, and everybody by then knew that this kid is something else. You got to see him. So, okay, you don't see too many high school baseball games where there's like 20 scouts there. Yeah. There was at that one. So that was an immediate thing that you noticed. But so Tom pitched against him, and Jeter gets up and just hits an absolute scorcher line drive that took it about 2.5 seconds to get out to center field, right up against the fence. And just when you saw it, a 17-year-old hit the ball like that. 17-year-old kids don't hit baseballs like that. And I mean, and then he had a cannon for an arm too. I mean, throwing guys out an infield ground ball, just again, you knew he just looked different than all the other kids on the field. And sure enough, 3 years later, he's playing for the New York Yankees. So it's pretty impressive.
Look at him now.
Yeah, look at him now.
He was a man amongst boys.
I enjoy
all the way.
I don't like Derek Jeter. No, I do. I respect him. I think he did great thing for baseball. I'm just not a Yankees fan because I'm a Tigers fan.
Yeah, I'm not.
I'm the same way. I'm the same way. I always root for Derek Jeter, but hope the team would lose because I hate the Yankees.
Yeah, agreed.
So, and that, I enjoy people. It's so it's bad because like we talk like Woodson, right? That goes plays for Oakland, and nobody likes Oakland. All this stuff, and you get the guys that say. I think you had some Central. I know Western had a couple guys over in Green Bay, and it's just like you get all these things, and you're just like, man, now what do I do? Because like.
Yeah,
local guy to do something, but I really hate your team.
I know when Jennings played for.
Yep. Yeah, Greg.
Yeah.
And all kidding aside, okay, I went to CMU, and I'm supposed to hate Western, but I don't because I grew up going to Western football games and actually like Western a lot, except when they play Central. But it's only one day of the year, so who cares?
Oh man, I got a buddy who him and my uncle both went to Western. They graduated from Western, right? And when Western plays Michigan. He roots for Michigan. Like you spent like $900,000 going to Western. You root for Michigan, dude.
No
like,
way. Absolutely not. I could never do that. Ever.
So, all right. So we've talked pretty much about debt. We've talked about financing. We've talked a few things. So David told me that you have a couple things that you feel like you have to tell me about a damn episode we watched because you want to get your
before we get there,
you want to get your opinion out.
But before we get there, I'm going to say this. I think we're going to have Dave on again for another episode, not the baseball one, but another episode about this debt, because this has been honestly a great college talk.
Yeah.
And we're running long, but I think we need to have part 2 of that.
Yeah, that's fine.
And in addition, we're going to have the baseball one at some point. But yes, David, send me a message about minimum wage.
I'll be quick. So basically, I made 2 comments.
Yep.
First of all, it was a great episode. I was thoroughly interested in it. But
Thank you.
the 2 comments I have is the one about women in the workplace.
Yep.
So women have worked as long as there's been industrial labor. I mean, the very first factory workers were women. They weren't men, actually. Especially in the United States. The very first factory workers in the United States were girls and young women who worked in the cotton mills out in Massachusetts before the Civil War. But even after that, women worked because wages were so low they had to. Mm-hmm. So we're talking late 1800s, early 1900s. What usually happened was women and men both, when they got to be, well, when they were still kids, they would start working. And then when child labor was outlawed because those rotten bastards had to ruin all the fun for the factory owners.
Congrats, you sound like your dad.
Yeah, that's right. Then they had to wait till they were 16 or 15 to go to work, and they did. And then women worked the same jobs oftentimes men did, but they made a third of the salary. A good deal for the company, not such a good deal for the woman. Then what would happen is once they started having families, then they left the workplace. They didn't really have a choice. And then after the kids got old enough, they went back to work and worked until they died, just like men did, because people didn't retire until the 1930s. So we used to call that the industrial work cycle. So after World War II, you started to have more of a what's the word I'm looking for? Public face of women in the workplace. At the same time, you also had women like my grandmother, who, unlike what would have been the case with maybe her mother in the generation before World War II, when my grandmother became a mom and started having kids like my dad, she continued working. And she actually had a job in a meat packing place of all places. Not a very typical situation you might think, but
that's
actually
very typical.
Worked with more women that were in the same situation she was, up until the point where she suffered pretty bad disability when she was in her 50s and couldn't really work anymore. And I remember my grandmother telling me once, kind of towards the end of her life, she says, yeah, I worked at first after your grandfather and I got married because I had to. And after he got his job at such and such place, it was a pretty good paying job. And she said, I still work because I like to have nice things. So that got me thinking about one of the things that you brought up about women being part of a growing consumer culture. And that was part of what motivated them to continue working. But then what happens is, and this is one of the things I texted Dave about, in around about 1980, wages adjusted to inflation start stagnating in the United States, including the minimum wage. So right now, I'm going to sound like I'm out of touch with reality, but I don't know what the federal minimum wage is. I think it's about $7.90 an hour. I think
$7.25 an hour.
$7.25 an hour. Okay. So that's $3 more an hour than it was when I made minimum wage 25, 30 years ago. But
me too.
Anyways, and then Michigan minimum wage is what, 9 something an hour, I think.
9.25, 9.50?
9 something.
9 something. So when the minimum wage was established in the United States, it was at a rate that adjusted to inflation now would equate to about $10 to $11 an hour. And it stayed that way until about 1980. And then starting about 1980, it wasn't, because it takes an act of Congress to change it, it wasn't changed very much. And it started to fall behind for inflation. And of course, inflation in the early 80s was still quite high.
Sure.
Not as bad as it was in the 70s, but it was still high, much higher than it is now. And so it fell behind. So now the minimum wage is still about, federal minimum wage about $3 or $4 an hour behind of what it was adjusted to inflation historically when it started. So food for thought.
So you want to be at $10 an hour?
No, I don't want to make $10 an hour.
Well, I'm just saying, like, that's what you want minimum wage to be. So we're $3 behind what it should be based off of the old, because we're at $7.25, so $3 an hour, so we're at $10.25. Which and I think I said here,
it should have been $10 an hour in 1990.
So here, real quick, things I got out of that real quick. Number one, my grandparents, who I call my parents, right? We talked about.
Love Archie.
Archie, right? Like I umpired with him. Yeah. We were a team, right? Like it was Archie and Nick all the time, and Nick behind home, and then so Grandpa would take the first game, and I'd take like next three, right behind home plate, because I got to work my ass off. That's what I got to do. So, but that being said, like my grandparents, right? My grandparents actually met each other at a meat counter, right? So, so the story is they meet on a Friday. They go out on a date on Friday. By Sunday, they had a ring. Within 2 weeks, they were married, and they married 58 years.
Wow, that's so cool.
And my grandma passed. It's been 2 years now. Wow, holy crap!
What a story.
Yeah, so it's really when you say the meat thing, like it brings back. I'm like, damn, this is a normal thing. It's funny because your grandma has passed, and I'm sorry to hear that, but like, I love hearing my grandpa tell me chicken wings. We used to throw those some bitches away because nobody wanted chicken wings. Now these damn things are $1 a piece.
Well, my grandmother actually worked in Kalamazoo at the Eckridge. Eckridge blowing.
Yeah.
At one time, they had a big plant there. Yep. And so even growing up, because my dad grew up eating sandwiches made out of various Eckridge lunch meats, that was always in the fridge. So it passed down the generations, and I still don't go into the store and look at a thing of Eckridge Polish sausage without thinking of my grandma. Now, she passed away, gosh, it's been 15 years ago now, quite some time ago. But yeah, she'd be about 100 if she was still alive. So,
sure. Yeah. So and then we go back to the point of, right? So inflation is a thing, but you had said, hey, like she kept working because she wanted nice things, right? And
yeah.
Now that the problem is so she was one of few, is how I look at it, right? She was one of few that wanted nice things. Like, not that people didn't want nice things, it was that, the amount of people that wanted nice things wasn't the same, right? Like,
well, I think in the 50s, maybe that was to some extent the case because wages were high enough and the economy was growing so it could support it. Well, right? We were a manufacturing economy, and there's a lot more value added onto goods in a manufacturing economy, so companies can pay workers a lot of money and still make a lot of money. And when you're a service economy, it's different. But I think by the time you get to the early 80s, now a lot of the two-income households are more out of necessity by then, because wages have stagnated. And inflation in the 70s, I mean, that really chewed into a lot of people's standard of living. I mean, my mom and dad would tell me about buying their house in the mid 70s
at 15%.
Yeah, and or a little bit lower than that, and thinking they got a great interest rate because it wasn't 15%.
Sure.
And then, so you're buying a house back then for 25 grand when 5 years before you would have paid 18 or 19 grand for it. So the cost of the house is going up exponentially. And then on top of that, you've got a loan that nowadays would be like a credit card rate, not quite, but close.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, that absolutely cuts into people's cost of living big time, and wages can't keep up, and that's what happens. So by the time you get to the early 80s, you've got now a lot of two-income families because of necessity.
Yeah. Well, and then the other point that you brought up was, women made 1/3 the price of what men did, right? And I think everybody, if you do a job, you should make the same price as the next person. I think everything should be based off of like what you give, what you, like, we talked about it yesterday on the episode. We don't think anybody's going to listen to this of what David's employees are. But he gave a raise because a girl's working her ass off, right?
Her ass off.
And so it's like, I am like a merit kind of a person. Like, dude, if you're like my contractors, like I have a contractor who, I'll give him, and I tell him ahead of time, like, hey, give me a price, give me a deadline. Okay, hey, I can get this done in 2 months, or so 8 weeks. Okay, man, tell you what, if you get it done in 8 weeks or less, I'm going to give you a $300 bonus. If you get it done after 8 weeks, it's going to cost you $10 a day, right? Like, and I play that game. Like, so I think that's how things should be based, because I mean, but it has to be up to my quality, right? Because I always set that standard. Like, I don't want you to. I'm dealing with right now where a closet, like I didn't notice it, right? I walk into the closet, it's beautiful, it's painted, it's whatever, and then like I turn to like leave the walk-in closet, and I'm like, oh shit, like this whole thing is not painted. Like he forgot the side you wouldn't notice, you know. But I think that companies were used to just paying, hey, like a little extra, right? Like, but you didn't see people going out and financing for 50 years back. That like banks are at fault. I hate banks, right? Like I just do in general. Okay, so minimum wage and whatever, but like it comes down to the bank aspect because, all right, we have all these big U.S. funded banks or government backed, let's call it like U.S. but government backed banks, and your dumbass gave loans to everybody and their brother, and then they foreclosed. And now you want to bail out from the government, which AKA means my tax freaking money. So all these houses that I'm buying cheap, I also pay taxes on the damn thing to bail your ass out from the first person. And then like you're now allowing people to, so you take this, you foreclose on 1 million people, right? Like I don't even know, the number might be more than that in 08, like 09. Like so many people got foreclosed. You got bailed out. Like the government's like, we'll just wipe your debt away. Like whatever. You made some money. And then you're going to sit here and go, you know what, David? We're really sorry we took your house, but we're going to give you a 7-year loan on a car instead of a 3 to 5 year loan. Like, Jesus. Like, hey, we're going to make it so you can still have that new thing.
Here's something to think about that's really going to piss you off.
Everything pisses me off. I'm an angry human.
Both are true. And maybe this will be my parting shot for the day. So, true story. One of the biggest purchasers of foreclosed houses in the entire United States, I mean, literally a portfolio of thousands of them, is the Texas State Teachers Pension Fund. Here's why. Because that fund was invested in not quite the extent of what Bernie Madoff was up to, but let's just say kind of getting there. And I actually think they lost a bunch of money in Enron too, even before that. So when the fund went bankrupt, the Texas state legislature hired some investment folks out of the private sector and said, grow this sucker, make it money again, because we don't want to have to expend any more tax dollars to pay teachers' retirement. So, hey, Texas is hit with the foreclosure crisis as much as any state in the union. What the Texas State Teachers Pension Fund did basically is they bought or created a couple companies that became huge rental property portfolio owners in neighborhoods in every city in the United States. I wouldn't even be surprised if my neighborhood here in Lansing has one. So something to think about. The Michigan pension system, it's not like that. It's totally different the way it can be managed, and that's a good thing because people like me have paid into it for a lot of years.
I think what I heard him say was, any kid that's still listening or watching this, go tell your teacher in Texas to go fuck themselves. No.
Well, no. I would say tell the people that took your teacher's money 20 years ago and put it in Enron stock to go fuck themselves, maybe.
So David said this would be his parting shot, but it's not. I still have 2 questions.
One more thing real quickly.
Yeah, go ahead.
Nowadays, the automakers, of course, a lot of the cars they sell, they're actually selling to banks who lease them to the consumer, right? That's a big part of how the industry works. One of the biggest holders of those loans is a Spanish bank. And Chrysler Corporate, Fiat Chrysler as it's called now, FCA, I think it's 40% of all their automobile lease loans are held by one bank in Spain. So international finance. Pretty
why not, baby? We're making the most freaking money.
I'm going to rely on my history friend here.
Yeah. Okay. So that's it. That's my parting shot. And
it's not your parting shot because you got 2 questions left. So Detroit needed a bailout. I want to say Gerald Ford, correct me if I'm wrong, because it might have been Jimmy Carter, said, yeah, we're not bailing out the city because they made stupid decisions.
Oh, no, way after that. Was
it after that?
Detroit went bankrupt in 2000 8.
Yeah, but I'm talking like this was late 70s.
Oh.
70s. I want to say.
Yeah, the city's finances then were a dream compared to what they ended up being.
Correct.
But yeah, they had financial problems then because the city's population at that point, well, the property values plummeted, and so there went the tax revenue. Yeah. Yep.
So Ford had said, yeah, we're not bailing anybody out, which, would have been smart to do in 2008, but why would we do that? We don't want to be smart. And then my last question, because I'm so excited that we're going to do a baseball one coming up soon.
Yeah.
David,
Yes.
top 3 position players that you were a fan of in the 80s for the Tigers, and then the 2 pitchers you were a fan of.
Oh, well, the pitchers are going to be a lot easier. That's probably going to be Jack
Remember,
Morris.
80s.
Huh? 80s? Yeah.
The bird.
Definitely Jack Morris.
Yep.
And then probably Dan Petrie.
Okay.
Okay. Position players. Oh, Alan Trammell, Lou Whitaker, and then I would say Darrell Evans.
Okay. So I have my own.
Or boy, that's a toss. Nah, you know what? Let me amend that. Lance Parrish. He played with the team longer.
Lance Parrish, baby.
I loved Darrell Evans.
Wheel. The big wheel.
Let's get here. So my pitchers, Willie Hernandez. Loved Willie Hernandez.
Hard to argue with that.
And the other one is not Jack Morris.
Should be.
It's not. It's Frank Tanana.
Oh, yeah.
I loved Frank Tanana.
Yeah, by the time they got him, he had turned into this big junk baller. He used to be part of the Texas Heat with Nolan Ryan, and then he kind of screwed his elbow up and added like 5-6 years out of his career by throwing a bunch of junk balls.
My favorite Tiger game was the 87 clinching game. Larry Herndon had a home run.
Oh, yeah, yes.
And Frank Tanana pitched 9 innings, shutout ball.
Shutout ball. By then he was, he was getting towards the end of his career, but still had some arm left.
My 3 favorite position players. This is tough, mind you, because I did love the Tigers in the 80s.
Yeah, it's tough.
Gibby.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Gibby.
MSU too, right? Yeah.
Number 2, Sweet Lou Whitaker.
Oh, of course.
Loved Sweet Lou.
Yep.
And the other one, as Ernie Harwell would always say, Chester Lemon.
Chet Lemon. Yeah.
I loved me some Chet Lemon.
Yeah.
And honorable mention to Matt Noakes, because I loved him in 1987.
Right. Yep. He was the last, actually kind of the last, well, I would say Brad Austin's was 2.
Yeah.
Noakes and Brad Austin's the last decent catchers they had that either came up through the system or were with the team for a long time.
Yeah.
That's why they haven't been good recently.
Yeah.
You name me one team that's ever won World Series without having a catcher that hit at least 270. Name me one. I don't think you can.
You can't.
And the Tigers, why did they lose 92 games in 2005 and go to the World Series in 2006? There were 3 things that were different about their team. Just 3. It was Jim Lee, Pudge Rodriguez, and Kenny Rogers.
Yep.
That's it.
Which was my boy.
Kenny Rogers.
Other than that,
you know how much money Kenny Rogers won me? So I didn't even know about Kenny Rogers, right? Like
the gambler.
I scrolled to the bottom of
Another Texas Ranger.
I scrolled to the bottom of the page and I'm like screwing around. I was like, this dude's name's Kenny Rogers is hilarious. I pick him for drafting. Win so much money this year.
Yeah.
I get so much crap from everybody because they're like, wow, dude, your last pick is literally a guy who's nobody. And then, Mr. Pine Tar himself, like, I'll take the win. But
they were almost the exact same team that year, except those 3 differences. They had a really good manager, they had Kenny Rogers, and they had Pudge Rodriguez. I went and watched them the year before. And I mean, you could see that they had it on, they had the talent there. They were missing something. And those were it. That's
when you look at 84 is a great example. So, being a long-suffering Cubs fan, everybody's like, oh my God, if the ball hadn't gone through Durham's legs in 84, they'd have been in the World Series and they would have won it all. Okay, I'm a baseball fan. David, is there any way they beat the Tigers?
No, that's why I'm saying no. That's why I kept saying no.
There's no way the Cubs
I like that.
beat the Tigers in '84. No way.
Going to happen because look what the Tigers did to the Padres in the World Series.
Yeah, they absolutely destroyed them.
All right. I mean, the Padres got one decent game in, and that was it. I mean, they won 104 games. They were in first place from wire to wire. You weren't going to stop.
35-5.
Yeah, 35-5 to start.
The best team in baseball from opening day until they won the World Series.
They were like Liverpool was last year in the Premier League. You just couldn't touch them.
They couldn't. Just nobody was there.
Nobody was. That was it.
So it's a soccer references are fantastic. So
Yeah.
David, hey, it has been a pleasure to meet you. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Absolutely.
I know we didn't hit on the debts as much as we would have liked. I know we had a great episode. We're gonna have you back and talk strictly like the next one. We're just gonna talk strictly like what to do, how to do it, and things like that.
School debt and how to get out of it.
I'd be glad to. I'd be glad to be back. I didn't scare myself away, or you guys scared me away. So.
No, that's great. So,
Good.
we really appreciate it. Big shout out again to Eagle Brewing, Frankenmuth Brewing, Christmas Town Ale. David got up and got me a Left Hand Brewing Milk Stout Nitro.
Yeah, I'll shout out to Mackenzie's and
I'll shout out to him too.
Rourke. When I got his, I got a Perrin, and then I have
The
Right
CEO
Brain.
Stout. So, guys, take care. Thanks so much for watching and listening.
Yeah.
We'll talk to you real soon.
All right.
Dave, don't leave us. We're gonna
Okay.
talk like we always do. And thank everybody for joining us. This was a long one, but a really good one.
Very fun one.